Welcome back. Amudar Pratap Singh, you're joining us on Newsx. The Pakistan Defence Ministry has informed the country's Supreme Court that Kulbhushan Jadhav is not allowed the right to appeal despite the 2019 International Court of Justice verdict. Jadhav has only been provided consular access. Remember, viewers, Kulbhushan Jadhav has been held in Pakistan over espionage charges since 2016. A military court had sentenced him to death. Pakistan has alleged that he was an operative working for India's external spy agency, the Research and Analysis Wing. In fact, Pakistan released a fake confession videos that was later debunked at The Hague. In 2019, the ICJ observed that Pakistan was in breach of Article 36 of the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations 1963 for not providing the facility of consular access to Jadhav. The court also held that Pakistan is under an obligation to provide effective review and reconsideration of the conviction and sentence of Kulbhushan Jadhav. The court noted that obligation to provide effective review and reconsideration is an obligation of result which must be performed unconditionally. In response to the verdict, Pakistan had enacted the International Court of Justice Review and Reconsideration Act 2021, adding the law to review and reconsider military court orders, including those related to foreign nationals. Additionally, in March 2022, the Islamabad High Court had observed that an Indian national cannot be denied the right to a fair trial. Hence, a recent statement from the Pakistani Defence Ministry appears to be backtracking on the country's previous stance after the ICJ verdict. Joining us live, Ambassador Bhashwati Mukherjee, former diplomat. We also have Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, live with us. Naveen Chomal, senior lawyer, joins us live. Major General Shashi Asthana, former additional DG Infantry, is also with us on the broadcast. Major General Asthana, let me begin with you. Do you believe Pakistan is backtracking from its earlier stance?
Given, but in a very awkward manner, because there was a glass window and he was not allowed to interact actually. So it was not really a consular access; it was only a visible kind of activity which was given. That's one part of it. Secondly, as far as the ethos and the underlying principle which goes behind the ICJ ruling was that he should get a fair trial. Now he is not being given a fair trial. He is not being given right to appeal. And the excuse is also very horrible because they have some, shall I say, protesters whom they want to make example of, and they have not given the right to appeal to them. And now they are now transplanting the same situation on Kulbhushan Jadhav to say that, okay, he also doesn't have right of appeal because we have not given it to our people. Now, that is absurd because law is law and international law has been upheld, and Harish Salve argued it very well when Pakistanis tried everything under the sun not to give him an access. Secondly, this is a very awkward case in a manner that this former Navy officer who later became a businessman was actually abducted from Iran, that is Afghan-Iran border, and brought to Pakistan. And the most important thing is as to why this is coming up now. One of the reasons which I can think of is trial of Tahur Rana is on in India. Pakistan is likely to be seen in bad light. They know that in the international forum, we will be shamed as Rana opens his mouth. Now, apparently, they are trying to say, no, there is somebody else from India also who is under trial, and they are trying to highlight this case to say that no, that India is also doing something like that. Which is in terms of espionage or sabotage or things like that, and we have an agent of India as well. Now this is a narrative or a counter narrative being played against Rana, and that is why this case is again this kind of Ministry of Defence approaching their court is happening now. It could have been done earlier, but I don't know how they have woken up now. In all probabilities, it is linked with they're trying to save their face because of the Rana's case. Back to you.
Yes, Ambassador Bhashwati Mukherjee, let me quickly draw you in here. Ambassador Mukherjee, what do you make of this latest statement by Pakistan denying Kulbhushan Jadhav the right to appeal? This again would be contrary to the ICJ verdict. This would be contrary to what their own High Court has also stated previously. What do you make of this U-turn, Ambassador Mukherjee?
Actually, I think that they can't persist with this kind of position for long because unlike the ICC, Pakistan has had a history of taking cases against us to ICJ. They have done it in the past. We have won the cases. They tried to, I remember when I was ambassador to Netherlands, They had taken this case about building a small run-of-the-river bridge, and they said it was in violation of the Indus Waters Treaty, etc. So they would not like to be seen in the ICJ as in violation of the fundamental principles of ICJ, which in this particular case, thanks to the excellent legal team that we put up, it was very clear that he had the absolute right to appeal. Now, it is very interesting what General Asthana has said, but I don't think it's going to wash any water with us, because if they are under the impression that we are going to do an exchange of Taimur Rana with Kulbhushan Jadhav, they are very sadly mistaken. First of all, as far as Rana is concerned, we went through a legal extradition process. We never kidnapped him. He was transferred to Indian custody and jurisdiction through a legal recognized bilateral judicial process. That's the first issue. In the case of this poor former naval officer who's been languishing there for more than 9 years, he was, as General Asthana said, and I recall being in Newsx cases when this was being done. He was kidnapped. He was denied consular access. He was denied access to his family. One is not aware of his present mental condition. It looks very bad when we see his photographs. So this could be a pressure tactic. On the other hand, it could also be that since they are denying the right to appeal to their own citizens, they are in the embarrassing situation now of accepting the right to appeal as has been handed down by an international court, the ICJ. But in my experience, I don't think that this is sustainable, because having dealt with the Pakistani delegation when I was there on two particular ICJ cases, I recall, they always come with a full team of American lawyers. In those days, American and British lawyers. They never bring their own lawyers. We bring always our own lawyers from India, and we always win the cases. I think that they would have to back off. But a prisoner exchange, in case that is what is on their mind, is not going to gel, because first of all, there's no comparison between Rana's extradition to India and all the crimes that he's committed and all the information he's going to give, which is going to enable us to catch some more people who are involved in the seniors plot and the so-called trumped up case against this poor naval officer. So I think that we have to watch and wait. My own fear is that I hope that in the process, because I have very little faith in Pakistan as a country being under the rule of law, but we have a lawyer on the panel, so I'm sure he'll tell us. In my information, I hope that they don't say that we've denied him his right of appeal and summarily hang him. That's what I'm afraid of. That they shouldn't execute him. But I think they won't do that. They would like to use him as a pawn to see whether they can use him, as has been the case in the past between other countries, to do prisoner swaps or exchanges, but certainly not with such a high-profile person that we have, and that is Rana. Uday.
Professor Madhu Nalapath, let me quickly draw you in here as well. Professor Nalapath, on what you make of this statement by Pakistan, what can be read between the lines into why they've said this, in complete contradiction to what they've stated earlier and also what they told the ICJ. What do you make of this?
Well, I'd like to say that they're trying to cover up their own sins. The reality is Kulbhushan Jadhav has been subjected to immense torture. I'm told that even today his conditions are absolutely dire. He's being monitored round the clock, day and night, and he's been given very few hours of sleep, and he's been questioned and questioned and questioned and questioned. I mean, frankly, I've always said from the very beginning that most likely the man is innocent. The reality is that the Indian state, as Ambassador Mukherjee will tell you, is very reluctant to resort to extrajudicial and extraterritorial neutralization, shall we say, of even the most undesirable people. And frankly, Pakistan blames India for every single, situation that takes place between the Baloch, and the Pakistan army, Pashtuns in the Pakistan army, others in the Pakistan army. So reflexively, they blame India. I'd like to say that Kulbhushan Jadhav, will understand that this is his last chance, and as a consequence, he may talk about the torture that he has been going through. And frankly, the reality is that today's circumstances have changed. For example, the K group members, who are also, together with these Pakistani gangs, Wahhabi gangs, together with them, and I'd like to distinguish the great religion of Islam from the small fringe of Wahhabism. So the reality is that they are being questioned, they are being arrested. Why? Because they're spreading drugs, they're doing contract killing, they're basically killers for hire. And so far as this gentleman is concerned, I'm still calling him a gentleman out of courtesy. This so-called person who's no more. The reality is, it's very likely that he was into a gang, very likely a rival gang. Neutralized him, and not Kulbhushan Jadhav. So, very honestly, the circumstances have changed with the election of Donald Trump, and I think government of India will quietly be doing whatever it can to ensure that. But I would agree with General Asthana that they're looking at a prisoner exchange. They're desperate to get Tawur Rana out of our clutches, and if he confesses, then if he comes back to them, then under torture, he'll be made to say that he was tortured, and he'll be made to say that publicly. That they make spectacles of prisoners in the way that used to happen in the Soviet Union in the days of Stalin. There's no difference between what they're doing. So very frankly, in my view, this is definitely trying to lay the ground for a prisoner exchange. I also agree with Ambassador Mukherjee that a high value target like Tawur Rana is very unlikely to be exchanged by Kulbhushan Jadhav. And above all, I'd like to say the reason why they're afraid of a Supreme Court hearing, their own Supreme Court, by the way, is not an international court, their own Supreme Court, is because they're afraid he will somehow blurt out torture that he's being subjected to and let the whole world know the kind of horrible situation that he's been undergoing. So I think, Uday, they are looking at a prisoner exchange, and they do want this very high value, legally repatriated person back. But again, I point out, this happened during the time of Donald Trump, and after Donald Trump met Prime Minister Modi, and it's not the Biden period. So during the Biden period, many of the Biden people swallowed hook, line, and sinker all the lies of the Pakistan army. That's not happening anymore. And of course, a lot of lies are being spread about Trump as well. So I'd like to say, Uday, that is obviously they're looking at a prisoner exchange. And the victim in this is Kulbhushan Jadhav, who I still continue to believe is more than likely innocent. And it was a gang war that basically killed off that activist. Thank you.
Yes, Naveen Choma, let me draw you in here. Naveen, what do you make of this Pakistan U-turn? Also, Naveen, how can this be challenged legally? Because this is contrary to what their own Islamabad High Court has said. This is contrary to the ICJ verdict. And obviously, this is contrary to all international norms of law and justice.
Udayji, permit me to start with expressing my gratitude for joining me with great stalwarts like Professor Madhav Nalapat ji, General Asthana ji, Ambassador Mukherjee. So despite my knowledge being dwarf in their presence, but still let me contribute. As compared to your question, please see, sir, that what can be expected from Pakistan? It is a rogue state. So nothing good, nothing fair, nothing legal can be expected from them. And as rightly said by our esteemed speakers, this is the fallout of the extradition of Tawur Rana into our country, Bharat. And they know he is going to sing like a canary, exposing all the misdeeds of Pakistan, which Bharat will be putting on the international platform before the UN and all the world. And we will be making a stronger case for putting that again on the blacklist. of the terror. So this is going to be a step they are anticipating. So whatever they can try to grab the advantage. So they are trying to pit the hanging of Kulbhushan Jadhav, an innocent person, as against Tahu Rana, and make a exorbitant demand, which they know that Bharat may not succumb to it, but still whatever they can grab, they will try to grab. This is their mentality. So I think what our Bharat, of course, our government knows better than me, but as a layman, I would still like to put the voice that bhai bina preeti na hoi. So I think our nation must increase our deterrence. Of course, the government is doing it's all whatever is possible for them. They know what the difficulties are. Still, but as a nation, we all citizens support our government to increase our pressure, power, and if need arises, exert additional influence over the international community and see that Pakistan is made to follow the ICJ order that the appeal should be duly allowed to him, and in the appeal also we must keep a proper tab over it. And as has been rightly pointed out, he must have been meted to inhuman torture day in day out, physically also, mentally also. So we don't know what must be his condition today. He must have become in a vegetative state also, as the pictures they show. So let us now, support our government, urge our government to bring back our citizen by using any means they want, and ultimately it will going to be cheered in our country that yes, we got Kulbhushan Jadhav also safe back to our country. Because we know Pakistan, they will cross the line like what happened in the case of Sarabjit. They couldn't hold him for too long, so ultimately they got him killed through some of their person. So they may try to do something to Kulbhushan Jadhav also in future. Whenever they get a chance, they may create some story also. So Pakistan is the most unreliable element, and we know what they are going through the doldrums. So they have nothing to lose. They are already shamed in the international community. They know that they have got no respect in the world community. So anything, they can't fall anything below Nadir. So they are at the nadir of their credibility, their finance, their stability. So they have got nothing to lose. So they are up to all dirty tricks which they can do. So I think this is the stage where our government should not go by the rules. They must cross the rules also and somehow get our bail freed. That is what I can urge. Back to you, sir.
All right, let me now go back across to Major Lastana on how this can of course be tackled now next. What can India do going forward? Should this once again be brought to the international attention of forums like the ICJ or other international bodies to pressurize Pakistan?
I think the MEA would certainly be looking at it, and after this decision which has been communicated, I am sure somebody, especially from the MEA side, some initiative will be taken. As far as taking this case to ICJ is concerned, I won't be able to comment on that because that requires a legal mind. I'm not too certain as to where the case would lie, but there is no doubt that a clear-cut message will have to be given to Pakistan that it is a fair trial, it needs a fair trial. And last time when the case was taken up, it was basically for fair trial. After all, what was India wanting? It was wanting a fair trial, and that's how perhaps the whole case was taken up. So apparently, and we will have to flag it to FATF and all other international agencies, human rights agencies, UN agencies who deal with the human right violations. So in case he is not given right to appeal, then it is a human right violation if we bring in the provisions of the United Nations into it. So certainly we will have to explore all possibilities and all options to make sure that Kulbhushan Jadhav gets justice. And as far as the other case is concerned, Rana, I don't think he will meet his fate legally, because India will not be lacking in giving consular access, giving required defense counsel, and all other the methodologies of the fair trial, because it is a case which is being watched by everybody. And when we are going to look for some more extraditions from other countries for the terrorists which we have named, then this will be quoted. So if we will perhaps try and give the fair trial to Rana, and he will be punished for whatever he has done, for which I think irrefutable evidences exist with India. Uday.
All right, let me in fact, take that back across to you, Ambassador Mukherjee, on again, what the Indian response to all of this should be. The fact is that this is something completely illegal that Pakistan now is doing after the ICJ's verdict was clearly not in their favor. After that, I think Pakistan has just merely given consular access, to Kulbhushan Jadhav, that too, of course, after being forced to do so. But they've not been allowed, he's not been allowed to have a fair retrial as yet.
There is a clear case for India to take this case back to the ICJ and to point out to the ICJ that despite the passage of time, the Pakistan is guilty of being in violation of an injunction of the ICJ to allow him to appeal and have a fair trial. They allowed him limited consular access once, and that was it. The other point I wanted to bring to the attention of my co-panelists and your viewers is that Pakistan has a very convenient habit of denying nationality when its heinous terrorists are caught. So when Ajmal Kasab was caught, they said that he is not a citizen of Pakistan, although his parents were calling from Islamabad right till the day that he was going to be executed after a fair trial under rule of law. The same thing is true for Rana. They washed their hands of Rana. They said he's a Canadian citizen. They said that he's not visited Pakistan for 17 years, etc., etc. So they can't do this kind of double talk that on one hand they say that Rana is a Canadian citizen and on the other hand they try to do a prisoner swap with us. What could also work, but this is too sensitive to be discussed on national television, is that in case we have a lower profile Pakistani spy, much lower profile, less strategic interest to us, a strategic asset from the perspective of exchange, the way the Russians and the Americans do it all the time. They keep these strategic assets, as they call them. So for the Pakistanis, the Kulbhushan Jadhav is a strategic asset. We must be having a couple of them too. And an exchange could be organized quietly if the situation permits. But first, we should go back to the ICJ and we should tell the ICJ also that he now looks very much, unfortunately, like that film I saw many years ago, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Nicholson. He looks like a man who has been so terribly tortured that he's lost his mind. That will only be clear if we are able to get consular access to him again, and it will be only clear if he is given a fair trial and he's returned to India. Because he is clearly an innocent man who was caught up and kidnapped and brought into Pakistan under false pretenses. So I think that there is no question of exchanging Rana, whom they have already said is not their citizen, but there could be some kind of a deal worked out behind. But the first thing we should do is to take this case right back to ICJ and say that Pakistan has violated its side of what it was instructed to do by the International Court of Justice, and Kulbhushan Jadhav is still, his life is hanging on a thread because he could be executed any time. He was arrested in 2016, this is 2025. I very much fear that he could be running out of time, and therefore we need to work fast and do something very, very quickly for this.
All right, let me in fact quickly now get closing comments. Professor Nalapat, the way forward, how should India now take this up formally?
Well, I'd like to point out that the Pakistan Army is relying on a permanent member of the UN Security Council that completely backs its activities,
yes,
and frankly, which in my view is can be identified as having sponsored a fair amount of those activities. And we all know the country I'm talking about, the all-weather friend of Pakistan. So they're relying on that. But I quite agree that Kulbhushan Jadhav is more or less likely to be innocent for a simple reason. If he were not innocent, then they would have gone the route we went in the case of Tawahur Rana. They would have gone the legal route, and they would have ultimately secured him by proving his guilt beyond reasonable doubt. And that's the point, beyond reasonable doubt. The reality is they are aware that he is innocent, and they therefore cannot prove any case beyond reasonable doubt. And I think that is what is keeping them from continuing to keep them from releasing this man and doing an immense, a gesture to humanity. Forget about, because frankly, more than likely, this man is innocent. And of course, the Pakistan army knows China will veto any resolution against it. And China has immense power in the ICJ also. So we can take it up with the ICJ, and let us see what the ICJ decides. If it goes against its own verdict, it would be quite a surprise as precedent. So let us hope for the best today, and let us hope for Kulbhushan Jadhav, a man who is suffering untold tortures day and night, and a man who is very likely innocent. Had he were not innocent, Pakistan would have, like India, have taken the legal route. And I again stress, we don't do this kind of thing. We take the legal route, and Tawahur Rana coming back to India proves it. So many killings are taking place in Pakistan. They're internecine killings, and they're all blamed on India. The reality is, because he is innocent, they are denying him right to their own Supreme Court, and they're denying him basic right of consular access. And frankly, even consular access, when it is given, he'll probably be monitored round the clock.
Okay.
Today, conditions are changing, and that I think is the one hope India.
All right. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us. Let's slip into a very short break. Much more on the other side.